Hello, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of Huskers Live with me, Justin Adams, and Brian Moore. Brian, how we doing today, man?
I am doing well. How are you, sir?
Doing all right. Ready to talk a little bit of Husker football from spring game to draft to all that. Yeah, we got a lot to cover. Trey Taylor, we got a couple of recruiting nuggets here. Hopefully bring y'all through, and then we'll be getting to the chat as we always do here as we go through the show. So Pit Snipe says it's dark in here. No idea what that means. I have no idea what you mean by that. Good afternoon, y'all. What's up, Justin? Appreciate it. Afternoon. Yeah, did you try opening your eyes? Dude's just
6 o'clock. Is that afternoon?
Dude's sleepwalking. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's dark because it's 6 p.m. Pit Snipe, what are we doing? All right, Brian. So, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the Trey Taylor news and start with a bang?
I would say we could do that, or we could start with the bad and get to the good.
Let's start with the bad, actually.
Okay, start with the bad. Well, Nebraska's not getting Charmar Brown. I would not plan on Nebraska getting Charmar. The thing here is, I think it was Miami and Nebraska until about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning yesterday. And then Cal came in with a ton of money, from what I understand, a lot of money. And Caleb asked me on Twitter when I posted like, I'd be very shocked if Charmar ends up a Husker. We'd love to have him, but I doubt it. And he asked me, Caleb did, what the selling point was for Cal. And I was like, well, they lost 4 running backs in the portal. We've talked about that. They've only got like 1 or 2. He has immediate playing time. Power 4 conference. He's going to go up against good teams. Granted, the team he's going to play on very likely sucks. It's kind of a dumpster fire right now, but he's going to get running back 1 reps. Mm-hmm. The selling point for Miami is they rotate 3 guys, and they're probably offering more than what Nebraska is. Our biggest selling point is you're close to home and you're going to be the second or third back. It's a similar situation as Miami with less money. I just don't think when it came to negotiating, Nebraska basically was like, look, you either want to be in or you don't. And if you don't, that's fine. We'll walk away. And I posted like a cryptic tweet, like you have to know when to walk away. And I think that happened for Nebraska yesterday.
Yeah. Early indications, Nebraska and Miami were kind of, in a good position. Miami, of course, I think had been on them the longest of everybody. And then, Cal is kind of the team to beat right now. It's one of those situations where do you feel like the longer it drags out, the better likelihood is for Nebraska, or no?
The fact that he told Miami yesterday, like, I'm making a decision today, it's down to you guys and 1 other school, but he wouldn't mention the other school, tells me it was very likely Cal.
100%.
The fact that he didn't say anything yesterday and that this does prolong a little bit gives me a little bit of hope, because that means somebody is in his ear, and it could be family, it could be friends, it could be coaches. It's probably definitely coaches too, but there's something that's pulling him to Nebraska. Mm-hmm. So the longer this goes on, it's probably better for us than it is Cal or Miami. So if we don't hear anything in the next day or 2, we might see, I think it was Pete Nakos that threw in like an RPM for Cal. We might see that switch in a few days if nothing comes. But I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up at Cal.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things that's like we can draw a little bit of hope from the fact that, it is taking a little bit of time. The longer it takes, the may seem better. But the thing is, I'm not getting my hopes up at this point, because it seems like Cal's in a really good position. Probably be a hard team to draw off of him for sure, to get him back to come over to Nebraska. So, it's one of those things where we knew this, like waiting on a running back was going to make it tricky. And that's kind of where they're at right now. Again, but I still feel like apparently they're comfortable with what they got. They're not, it doesn't seem like they're willing to go too crazy to, throw too much at a running back, or there's no desperation, it seems. So again, no issue in our opinion of talent in the running back room. It's just the experience issue. So any kind of talent in there will help that, but no desperation from the coaches. So I'm not feeling too stressed out about that either. So let's go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I'll say, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I think we still need another running back, but you have to trust their evaluations on the current room as well. Like you kind of have to have this blind faith right now with Coach Rule that he's doing what is right. And like, you also don't want to go out and pay a guy. And I'm not saying Charmar Brown's not going to be a great running back, but right now he's just a good running back, and you don't want to overpay a guy. And what if he comes here and he just doesn't, for whatever reason, achieve what we thought, and now you're stuck paying 4 or 5, 600 grand a year for a guy that's a rotational back at best. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
you trust who's there, and you just keep running with that.
For sure. All right. Well, what do you say we get to some better news here?
Good news.
Mr. Trey Taylor. We got some really good news out of his camp. So go ahead.
Yeah. I'm very confident. I have been for months that Nebraska is getting Trey Taylor. There's just something about Nebraska that is drawing him here. He loves the culture. He loves the coaching staff. He loves the offense. It's very similar to what he runs in high school. And I actually spent this afternoon probably watching, 20 or 30 minutes of his tape just to like kind of prep myself for like, if we get this kid, like we need to be ready to understand what kind of player we're getting truly. I think come May 1, I think he's announcing at like 4 p.m. Central Time. I believe it's on 247 Sports. Like we're going to have a video ready to rock and roll for Trey Taylor to be in.
3:30
Central. If that happens, 3:30 that happens, we're dropping it. And then we got the call-in show that night too. So like it could be literally an entire afternoon and evening of Trey Taylor talk. This kid's so freaking good.
Really, really good. We can roll that right into the Trey Taylor stuff. That would actually be perfect. So hopefully it's not a depressing call-in show, but we're feeling really, really good about that. Really, really good about that, as most of the fan base is now at this point. But it's been trending that way for a while. So it just seems like Trey's had this connection with Nebraska and the fan base too, especially just looking at his Twitter and all that. Like I feel like there's just a lot of signs pointing that direction, have been for a while. So.
Yeah. His dad even said too, like he loves engaging with fans, and in particular the Nebraska fans on Twitter. Like you don't do that and go out of your way, in my opinion, if you're not eventually going to commit to that school. Like he posted a tweet the other day, like he added like this hilarious like Snow Buddy Nebraska Twitter account or something, and he added them specifically when replying to a tweet. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious, which shows one, he's super connected to the fan base, and two, it's just absolutely hilarious that he did that.
It is. That is funny. That is funny. It's further proof. Like we see a lot of the parents of players connecting with the fan base in a lot of cases and stuff like that too. And so like, while we do have our bad Husker fans on Twitter, I think for the most part, they do a good job. We do a good job of connecting with them. And that goes a long way. I don't think people, like we talk about all the time, how when people talk reckless on social media, like players and, are on there, parents are on there and see it. It's like, we see how much some of these parents respond. We see how much some of these, players respond, especially in more recent years. And just think about all the players that don't respond, that do see everything that we post on there. That's kind of what we're alluding to. It's like one of those things. It's like out of sight, out of mind. We think if they don't respond, they don't see it. That's not always the case. And that stuff goes a long way for recruiting. So that's why we always talk about be careful if Nebraska doesn't land a guy off rip, because then when the fan base turns on them, they're going to see that. Their parents are going to see that, and they're going to be like, this isn't a place I want to go. It's fake love all over. So, but Trey Taylor, I mean, it's just one of those guys that we were going to record a film review earlier, but we'll definitely be pulling up some film on him, and whether we do that in the call-in show or whether we record that. But he's just, I mean, it's the thing is like he plays really well. When I'm trying to find the best way to describe his game. I did kind of a short video kind of breakdown that I didn't post yet, but it's like, or of him a while back that I never got to post. But there's just some kind of calm with him, whether the play breaks down, whether the play is within structure or not. He just has this calmness in the pocket. He's dynamic enough to make plays and extend plays. But like all over his film, you see the ball jump out of his arms. You see him making play after play. You just see kind of that potential star in him. And I mean, you can't not watch that and not be excited. If you haven't had a chance to go check it out, like I said, we'll be breaking it down here. But if you haven't had a chance to go check out his film, you when you watch it, you'll see exactly what I'm trying to talk about. It's trying to put it into words, but it's kind of hard. But it just seems like he's always prepared for the moment. And even those. I think his school success wasn't what was his competition like? That's what I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. He played class. Let's see, what was
he goes to Carmel Catholic, I
Yeah,
believe,
out
is the
in
high school. So
Illinois.
probably a bunch of private schools more than likely.
Right. So
Um,
that was the one, that was kind of the one potential knock, is that. But I mean, we'll look at his stats here. So I have his stats written down. As a sophomore, 3,061 yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 picks. Yeah. Like kids are
69% completion too.
69% completion percentage. Nationally, 24/7 has the seventh ranked quarterback, fourth ranked player in the state of Illinois, 66 nationally, and their 24/7 composite has his almost 5-star. Number 3 quarterback, 2 player in the state of Illinois, 35th player nationally.
Yeah.
6'3", 186. I mean, just got everything you need.
Yeah, I think this kid like is very seasoned. I have my notes pulled up too from some of the film review I was watching today.
Mm.
And I have one of the things is just very seasoned for how young he is. Like as a true sophomore to come in your first year and it's your first year starting varsity, you're slinging the ball for almost 3,100 yards at 20 touchdowns. He had almost 500 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. My notes exactly say advanced footwork in the pocket for his age and only playing 1 year of varsity. Like strong base. He reads the defense as well. He recognizes
exactly.
pressures
He
coming.
looks so calm no matter what happens in the play, and that's all his feet. Like Glenn Thomas says, calm feet equal calm mind. I say it all the time, and that's he has this calmness, level-headedness about him in the pocket that you don't see from a young guy at that age.
Yeah, there's one play that if we do land Trey Taylor and when we do the film review of him, he's like rolling out, he's escaping pressure, he rolls out to his right, and he does such a good job. And it's not just this play, it's on so many plays where he's scrambling, where he's keeping his hips square to the line of scrimmage, he's keeping his shoulders square, and then he just throws an absolute dart to a guy coming across the back of the end zone. It's such a beautiful play. There's so many plays on there. It's like, there's no way this kid's a sophomore in high school. It's mind blowing how good he is.
Footwork, balance, like it's all there, and like all of that is about like the getting the hips in the right position. Like that's all footwork, knowing his center of gravity, and that's just going to make him that much more of a quarterback. And just think about when you put some size on him, turn him into more of a prototypical size of a kind of a pocket passer, but just crazy arm strength too. The ball jumps off his arms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just there's so many things to be excited for. Like I almost wish we had done the full breakdown, so I had a full like fresh sheet of notes on him, but we'll do that soon.
We're definitely gonna have to do it. I think we're gonna have good news come May 1st.
Yep. So all right, let's get into some of the comments here. Let's see. Walter, don't be sad already, man. 1890s to develop Nebraska fantasy football. Fans pay to draft 5 players every week. Then you pick the score quarter by quarter. The top 10 winners win money. The rest of the money goes to NIL. That's, I mean,
NIL.
huh?
I'd rather just give it all to NIL.
Yeah, that would be fun though. Make it interactive, but I'm also confused by the instructions. But that's because my brain doesn't work that fast. So, but it's a great idea, Matt. So he's going to be the only running back on the team, basically. Couldn't imagine Cal has much money left to get other running backs. Yeah, no, they got a lot of stuff to worry about on that team outside just running back. But the running back became a big problem for them.
Yeah, it's a disaster over there.
Coffee Yum Yum is made. Smoke loaded. I have pits in that. What was talking about? Skill game, so not gambling. That's true. Y'all can't gamble in Nebraska still. It's all right. It's legal here, and I stopped gambling before it was even legalized in the United States. I got banned overseas.
Called it.
Yeah, I got banned overseas by Bovada before it was legal in the United States because I charged back some money because they put in a wrong bet for me. Wouldn't change it. They're like, all bets are final. Matthew, in every small town bar across Nebraska, the Squares board sits at the cash register. Let's see. I give 95% Trey Taylor. Yeah, we're with you. Between 95 and 100. How many top QBs do we need? Remember, you can never have enough quarterbacks on your roster.
He's a 2027 kid too.
Yeah, he's 27. 2027, not 27 years old. Yeah, he's 2027. So that's what we're talking about, a sophomore season. But you can never have enough top quarterbacks.
I'll just I said this on my like spring game recap, but like I'm fairly confident TJ Lateef is the number 3 QB coming out of spring right now. And just imagine when Dayton gets here, and then in 2 years, if Trey comes,
yes,
like you have such a loaded QB room, like, and it's just the reality is like someone has to more than likely leave if they want to play.
But the thing is, it's a good problem to have if you have too many good ones or one of them has to leave. That's right where you want to be. You'd rather be in that situation than be like, no, we're going all in on this guy. We're not going to recruit any other quarterbacks, and all of a sudden that guy leaves, and then you're SOL.
And you're stuck with Riker Fife.
Nobody wants a Riker Fife. Okay,
yeah, no offense.
You get Tate Martell at that point.
Yeah,
who couldn't even stick as a quarterback. All right, I'm sure we'll get in Dayton. Well, that's a guarantee.
Already have Dayton.
Yeah, we already got him. Let's see. Yes, you need at least one of the top guys in every class. 100% you do.
You need your QB first.
Yep. What's going on, Caleb? Appreciate you hopping in here. Let's see here. I was told I'm negative, but no one tells me how. Bone, you're grumpy sometimes. All right, it's okay. It's all right. Fongway's more negative than you a lot of times, I feel like. Swan is an old neighborhood name. Okay. Let's see. Love Trey's character. He's been such an awesome guy to watch on Twitter. He actually, he actually has. We got gambling 2 years ago, just not online gambling. Oh, gotcha. What do you guys think about Dayton? I think Dayton's, listen, I love lefty quarterbacks because I'm a lefty. So I will say that. But at the same time,
more of a project.
Yeah, more of a project. Definitely more raw than Dylan. Dylan, 5-star, of course, top of the, I mean, we're comparing him to a top quarterback, of course, but naturally the comparison is going to be there with his being his brother. But, he's more of kind of that, I would put him more in that, like, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Danny Kalen style range, than the Dylan Raiola range. So definitely going to need some work.
This is a big year for Dayton.
It is. Yeah, but he plays a really high level of competition over there. So he's playing against some top guys, some dogs. And there's no telling what he will do this year. Just looking at the film though, he just not quite as refined as Dylan is. Which, like I said, is not a knock on by any stretch. That's comparing him to a ready college quarterback. So all right.
Yeah.
Anything else on Trey before we move forward?
Nope, we're all good.
All right, so let's just go ahead and let's recap a little bit of the Husker draft, where the Nebraska players finish in the draft, whether that be in the draft or undrafted free agents. And I was kind of running through them here a little bit ago. So let me see. So we had, all right, in terms of our guys who got drafted, so we have Ty Robinson to the Eagles, Fedoni to the Giants, which great job. Congratulations to them. Happy for both those guys, man. So we got Ty Robinson went at the fourth round, 111 overall. Fedoni, 7th round, 219 overall. Then we get into our undrafted free agents. We got Ben Hart. We got Isaiah Nair, Mazuka, Ben Scott, Nash Hutmacher, John Bullock, MJ Sherman, Tommy Hill, Isaac Gifford, and Bushini. So,
yeah,
it's
a little disappointing. We only got 2 guys again, but that just kind of tells you how far we've fallen from grace, I guess. I mean, I saw someone post something on the X the other day. I was like, when you think about how little NFL talent we have, it's a miracle we've won 7 games last season.
Yeah. And what do you expect from, these undrafted guys? Do you expect any of these undrafted guys to be able to make it? We were talking about Micah Mazuka as if, like, we talked about him a little bit before the show, and you had a great point that I think we can all agree with. If his head's on right, he's going to be in a great situation.
Yeah. Micah is a frickin' dude. Like, even when Nebraska wasn't playing him, it was more just based on attitude and like confrontations with the coaching staff. But like when he was on the field, there was no question about it. He was probably your top offensive lineman. He just needs to figure out what's going on between the ears. And I personally hope the Chiefs keep him because they need help at left guard. They need help at left tackle, even though they just drafted a left tackle in the first round. But they need help on that offensive line. But we'll see.
Yeah,
I think who else we got? Tommy Hill at Minnesota is a decent spot for him to get a mini camp invite.
Yep.
That foot injury. If I'm an NFL team, this is why he didn't get drafted. It's that foot injury. Those are so finicky.
Tough. Yep.
And I don't know what his health is. I can't imagine. I think it was probably pretty bad if nobody drafted him because this was a guy that was probably, if he played all of last season healthy, probably late first, maybe middle second round pick. and he fell all the way out to not even getting a UDFA deal, but just a mini camp invite. There's health reasons for that, I think.
Exactly. Yep. So we had Banks going to the Ravens. We had Bushini to the Giants, MJ Sherman, Broncos, Tommy Hill to the Vikings, Mazuka, minicamp invite for the Chiefs and the Niners. And then what else do we have? So we had Gift to the Panthers. We had Nash to the Ravens, Nair to the Niners, Ben Scott to the Tampa Bay Bucks, and John Bullock to the Tampa Bay Bucks as well. So none of those guys landed on any of my teams. So
I think of all those, the one that has the best chance to sticking, like making a practice squad, maybe Nash, just because I think Nash is better than what he's valued at.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm biased. And I said this when we were like just chatting in the lobby before we joined in. Like Isaiah Nair has like freak athletic skills. I think he's going to find a way to stick to a team, just because there's not guys that are 6'4", 215 that run 4.40s.
I think he has a shot. And I also think like, man, and just with a good performance, maybe it's just because I want him to do well. I want Tommy Hill to do well.
Yeah, like, I like really, Tommy a lot.
I do like Tommy, so like hopefully he's able to, because he's got all the talent in the world. I mean, we look at his 2024 season grade. Not this past season prior, like I talked about before, he was right there with Kamari Lassiter and Kool-Aid, or Kamari Lassiter and Kool-Aid McKinstry in terms of his coverage grade. You know, not this past year, but the previous year. So he's got all the talent in the world. We saw him come on strong at the end of that as that season went along. So I do think like maybe if he can get in there and show him some of the talent, that he could potentially stick. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for sure.
Yeah, but it just all depends on that foot. Man.
All depends on the foot. Yep. And it's like you said, it's especially in athletic competition, the foot, bro. Like it's like it killed. Like Yao Ming's a extreme example, but like that's what his entire career. He got one foot injury. His entire career was basically ruined by that. It just got hurt over and over, and then he ultimately had an early retirement because of it. So yeah, the foot injuries nag. So hopefully they got the recovery good on it, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out, though. But we keep everybody updated on that stuff. All right, let's go ahead and push over to. We're going to go over some spring departures. So just going through a list here of some of the departures that we talked about pre-spring or the early spring portal entries. So we got our guys like Alex Bullock. So Alex Bullock, Jack McAllister, and Harley Gilmore have been this kind of. The more recent ones, of course, Harley Gilmore being the biggest blow of those naturally because we were so excited about him. And again, dismissed for whatever reason. I'm not gonna dive into that. But the Jack McAllister we talked about last week, how like there was probably a reasoning behind that, going to more of that rugby, Australian league style of punting. So yeah. Jack just didn't fit what they were looking for under Eckler. Bullock, Bullock, no surprise. DeAndre Barnes, again, we talked about this before. No surprising names, no names that were, which is really success at the end of the day of this portal season. Like, no names that were like scratching our heads out, like, oh crap, we can't. Harley Gilmore is probably the worst one, but technically he wasn't even on the team. I mean, on the team as a player. Yet. So talking about the players from last season, though, DeAndre Barnes, Nico Ottamanelli, we wanted to keep him, but of course it would be hard to carry all three of those. Grant Segrin, DB Evan Taylor, David Borchers, Hayes Miller, and then tight end DL Ian Flint. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, DeAndre Barnes, that one surprised me a little bit, but I'm not like overly shocked or bummed out about it because we knew he was making some moves in camp, but getting down as 105, you got to let some guys go. He's been here for 3 years. If you see promise in some freshmen, then you're likely to keep those guys around because you have a little bit more time to develop them. Nico Ottamanelli, that one's a little shocking because Tristan Alvano's coming off of surgery. And then John Hull's got a quad injury. So we really have like one or maybe half of a kicker that's healthy.
Yep.
So I wonder about the depth a little bit. Grant Seagren, not a surprise. There's people that were like, oh, he was second string last year, but he wasn't really second string. I don't know why people thought he was second string. Evan Taylor, not a surprise. Borchers, nope. Hayes, nope. Ian, I think them moving him to defensive end was their nudge to like, hey, like you can't play tight end here. We're going to move you to D end or you can transfer. And that's what he did. I'm not worried about any of them.
No.
Best of luck to all of them, though, of course.
Yeah, we don't mean that in a negative way at all. However, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you got to trim the fat this year, and that's kind of the nature of the beast. So, Ottomanelli, I think that's the one that we had talked about last week or the week prior when asking about 3 kickers. Why we thought it would be a good reason to keep him was because of the uncertainty with the other kickers. So, hate to see him leave. Another one who I believe was his mom was super active on Twitter.
Yeah, she posted something to the extent of like, we love everything about Nebraska. It's just the nature of college football now, which it is. And, like Grant Seagren immediately picked up an offer from Washington State, which was very surprising to me considering he was like 5th on Nebraska's tackle depth chart once Teddy and Turner and Gunner come back. But his brother actually played at at South Dakota State at the time. Washington State's head coach was their head coach. Yeah. So there is a little bit of a connection there.
Yep. All right, let's dive into some of the comments here. Let's see where's that. Interesting to see what he does here. Buford. Probably talking about Raiola. I'm echoing.
Yeah, his offensive line sucks. Can confirm. I've watched enough tape.
Yeah. They run out of Tobias. I'm stuck on this. Sorry, I'm hearing myself echo again.
Let me back out real quick.
Yeah, just back out. Come right back in. I'm stuck on this. I'm the only one that bought a square every week during the season. I bought no squares. Nash either sticks to a team or goes to USA Wrestling, aiming at the 2028 Olympics. The timing is kind of perfect. That would be actually pretty interesting. That would almost be more entertaining to follow than a NFL career run. Kool-Aid where I got you. Bone Lake Corn Fed, I got you. Don't worry about it. We're going to get some Bone Lake Corn Fed, some Kool-Aid, some Roulade. We have a square game. Let's see. Taylor Wan's good dudemanship has made it hard for me to break meat chicken balls around. I don't know what that means.
I have no idea what that is.
Sometimes I'm following. I'm like, all right, Taylor Wan's a good dude, and then I get to the end of his sentence. I'm like, what are you talking about? Let's see. Oh, bars here let you buy squares before the game. That's what it is. Right, Bone. I pick an empty square at my hometown bar where it works. So it's kind of like the Super Bowl squares, I guess. I go to the bars every year I'm out there and never play squares. So must be.
I have zero experience, so I can't really.
I played like Super Bowl squares, but I don't know if that's what they're talking about here. All right, let's go ahead. Let me get over into the on 3 here. Post spring little top 25. What is this? Most improved teams, or is this like a top 25? Let me go back to post spring top 25. Okay, yeah, and we got Nebraska here at 22. So speaking of the Kool-Aid, is this another year where we're just talking about Nebraska being ranked again?
Yeah.
Are we buying it this time? I know this usually comes with a lot of negativity from comments sometimes and stuff like that. Like, oh, here we go again.
I'm in prove it mode.
Here, let's read we'll read it here and see if we agree. The Cornhuskers upgraded the offensive talent transfer portal season. Former Kentucky receiver Dane Key, Elijah Pritchett, Notre Dame guard Rocco Spindler should help Raiola in his second year as a starter. Question is, where Nebraska stay good on defense after loss to the draft portal departure of Tony White to Florida State? John Blunt was hired last year. The intent was to replace White, so perhaps transition will be smooth. Here's the thing on the defense for me. While we lost individual talent, the unit will be better. That's in my opinion, because there's less of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like anchors bringing the level of the defense, the entirety of the unit down. You know what I'm saying? I felt like we had really, really good, but we had some real liabilities. And so that mixture was that inconsistency. I think this year we get a lot more consistency because we have a lot more solid talent, maybe less at the very, very high end. but a lot of young, solid talent and less of those guys kind of weighing down the defense. So that's my thing on the defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think the secondary is going to be a lot better because John Butler is going to run that secondary how he wants it with coverages and whatnot. And we know that was kind of an issue last year with him and Tony White. They kind of butt heads, how they wanted to run certain coverages. So I imagine Addison Williams is going to like put his 2 cents in, but it's not going to be like such a rough, transition because they're all operating under the assumption that we're doing it John Butler's way at the end of the day. Like, give us your suggestions, but it's going to be what I say at the end of the day. On top of that, I think Nebraska got better at the linebacker room. I think they got better in every aspect of the secondary. I think you got better on the edge than you were last season. The only question is interior. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I'm pretty confident in saying like our edge players are better than last year. Our linebackers are better. Our corners are better. Like, I think it's just going to be a good unit. They play as one.
Yeah, less of the getting beat over the top, like backbreakers like that. I think we're going to see a lot less of those. I think it's going to be more of those where it's like teams are going to have to really. And I talked to my wife about this the other day, and I was like, I think it's the difference between like what the casual fan likes about college football, the ones that do, as opposed to the NFL. The ones that do like the college is like the amateurness of it, kind of like the big plays. Whereas the NFL, it's more like you have to nickel and dime your way down the field. You have to drive your way down the field. Yeah. I think Nebraska's defense is going to be more so of kind of making teams work their way down the field against them, more nickel and diming, less of that explosive play. Because again, without giving up those explosive plays last year, that was the difference in at least 3 games. Just explosive TDs. Ohio State game being one of them.
Yeah, even the big one to Jeremiah Smith, right?
Yep. Yeah. Even they ran the same play against Indiana. They ran the same exact play. I did a full breakdown on the same exact play that was run by Indiana, that was run by Ohio State, and we got beat on it both times. Slightly different route on the route concepts, but I think it was the Ohio route. Slightly different on the route concept, the one that drew the safety over. One was lined up in the middle of the field, one was lined up on the hash, but same concept. They drew that down with the underneath route and were able to hit the deep seam both times. It was almost identical. So I think like those were ways that teams, even talk about Ohio State afterwards when they're talking about, we saw, them run this play before or whatever, like the stuff that was showing up on film to be exploited. Like I felt like those teams were taking advantage of that because, as we talked about before, Tony White was reactive in adjustments as opposed to proactive. Mm-hmm. Now we got a defensive coordinator who's going to be more proactive, and we have a team that I think can just contain that explosiveness a lot more because I think just they're more athletic.
Yeah, and I think like the 3-3-5 is what people are running with. I think me and you have said this like probably 10 times on this channel in the last month. It is. I think it's going to be more of a 4-3 in the sense that you're going to have 3 down linemen, and then Desan McCullough is going to be a stand-up 4th person on that line of scrimmage, or it'll be Javin Wright, or it'll be Vincent Shavers. But there's going to be 4 men at the line of scrimmage. You're going to have essentially 3 linebackers and your traditional safeties. You're not going to have freaking 5 defensive backs on the field. Deshaun Singleton's going to be basically an extra hat in the box, a more athletic, smaller linebacker. Is how I see it. That rover position changing under John Butler.
Yeah, I think we could occasionally see a 4-2-5, but it's not going to be our main staple. It'll be kind of a 4-3 with that hybrid variation for certain, rotate certain defensive packages and stuff like that, where we may occasionally, in certain situations, ends up with 5, obvious passing down, stuff like that, end up 5 defensive backs on the field. But majority of the time, it'll probably be a 4-3 kind of multiple look. But majority of the time, it's going to be more of an NFL kind of base scheme.
Yep. And I think their coverages are going to be more NFL style. I talked about it on like our spring game preview. Like the safeties in the NFL, they rotate so much after the snaps. Whereas in college, it's more of like if you may show cover 1 and bail out to a cover 2, but like it's very easy to pick that up right after the snap as a quarterback. Like the Chiefs do it all the time, where they'll show cover one, and then at the snap, the free safety is now the strong safety, and that strong safety that was a robber bails out to a free safety, and they rotate them all
That
the
rolling
time.
coverage, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Nebraska is going to do more of that because they did a ton of that in Buffalo when John Butler was like the defensive pass game coordinator and the secondary coach.
Yep.
I think we're going to see way more intricate schemes defensively.
Agreed. Yeah, it's like that rolling rotation of the defensive backs too. Like you show them the open look with no deep center safety, and then you rotate that over to a closed look, pre-snap, so that way they have to make during this, so they have to make the read as the play's progressing. A lot of college quarterbacks, that's why they get to the second level, and they don't know yet how to read the disguising of the shells. Looking at a cover 3 shell, but they're rolling over into cover 2. I feel like we're seeing that more and more, these days in college. But yeah, it's not to the level of the NFL by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
I was saying, and you could really the reason why I think they're going to do that is just how many seniors and upperclassmen are in our secondary. Like, there's guys that have been here 4 years that have been starting for 2 or 3, so their knowledge is so extreme, where you have that ability to say, look, we're going to do some funky things here. But you guys can handle it. It would be different if it was no knock on like Caleb Benning or Mario Buford, but like they've been here for a year. You can't maybe run an advanced scheme like that.
Exactly. No, I agree. Yeah. And that's why I almost think it was good that there was a transition year where Butler was able to come in and kind of take, what he could from Tony White, the 3-3-5, learn about that. Cause again, that's not something that's running the NFL. 3-3-5 is still fairly new. Like, it's just, it's designed to keep up with the modern, fast pace, spread them out, make you cover grass offenses. And, the NFL, the speed is much better there. So those guys can cover, without having to have, that you can't sacrifice that extra, third down lineman to always have a fifth defensive back out there. So it's one of those things. It's just like, I think that was a good period for him to kind of come in and learn that and take some of that. And then, but also take what he knows best and kind of implement that, take some good from the 3-3-5, because there was a lot of good in it. I just think we just had a lot of pieces that didn't fit it very well, and the execution was awful at times, and spacing and all that.
Down.
Oh yeah.
First and second down, great. Third down, not great. But I was so impressed with their ability, second and short, third and short, fourth and short. Their execution always seemed to be on point in those need to stop them down situations. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, how many times did we stop Ohio State when we played them on fourth and short? It was like 2 or 3 times. Like, those are big downs, and we did it. And that's what I love about the 3-3-5.
Yep, exactly. And then we saw, that energy and that electricity of those stops. Look at the Boston College game, right? Those short yardage stops. Look how important those were, and those big moments like that. And Ohio State, we made tons and tons of stops, couldn't take advantage of them, but still there's a lot of good within that. It's just one of those things where it's like 3-3-5 is a very risk reward defense. And so I think what the best avenue to do then is to take, some of the parts of the 3-3-5, add in those elements of kind of that, because the 3-3-5 is a little bit of a hybrid of the 3-4 and a 4-2-5 kind of, but you with in terms of concepts. But then when you come out there and you have a risk reward defense like a 3-3-5, and you kind of put a little bit of take some of that risk off, and you're not going to get as many of the rewards. So for instance, with a 3-3-5, especially when you're a defensive back, you don't want to jump the route unless you get both hands on the ball, because a lot of times you're going to be in man coverage, you're going to be the only one on it. So unless you get both hands on the ball, you don't want to try to jump that route, because then there's a big risk that guy's running for a long time. It leaves you susceptible on the edges, little stuff like that. So taking those little details that kind of make it that more aggressive style, because we've talked about Butler wants to be more aggressive. We talk about the assistant coaches are more aggressive in their style, especially our defensive backs coach. That's why I think this is going to be a perfect combination as a unit of just kind of taking both of those and finding the middle ground. I think right now in college football, there's so many different offenses, so many different changes and play styles and quarterbacks that you can't say this is my defense and this is what we're going to run. And that's it. You got to be able to adapt and adjust and know all these different concepts and schemes.
Yeah, just look at the Big Ten alone. I mean, we're going to have Michigan here one week, and they're going to be more of that traditional power formations. And then you have an Ohio State who's like a spread. Oregon more of a spread. Iowa's like, we're going to be in the I formation half the time. Wisconsin is, transitioning from that to more of an air raid. There's so many different, just in the Big Ten alone, like you can't just be like, yeah, we're going to run a nickel the entire time, because that's what I know. Like you have to be willing to adapt. And I think that's what Nebraska is going to excel at, is being able to adapt their defense with this scheme, with the players on the team.
Agreed. Yep. And then that offense taking reps against his defense is going to take them a long, long way. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that we shouldn't have too many concerns about the overall defense. Are we feeling better about the O-line? How you feel? I mean, like, I know me and you feel pretty good about it, just because of, Rayola's at the helm. We trust Rayola for sure. But just a little question marks. But how do you feel about it overall?
Well, someone did like the early 2026 draft, and they had Elijah Pritchett going 21st to Houston, ironically for you. Which to me, like, coming off of kind of an up and down year at Alabama, like, he would have to absolutely, he'd be a first team All Big Ten tackle if that was the case.
I was surprised. I'm surprised that he's the first, because like he was, I mean, for all intents and purposes, a disaster at Alabama.
Yeah. So either he is absolutely balling out and someone knows it, or he's not gonna, I don't know. I think he'll be fine though. Like,
yeah,
change of scenery. You're the left tackle. You're not switching between left and right all the time like he was at Alabama.
Yep.
Different style of coaching with Donovan Raiola. So I really like where that line's at. I think having, if it's like Lutovsky at left guard, it'll kind of help cover him a little bit. Or if you're running a tight end over him, then it can kind of help him out a little bit. I'm not worried about the right side at all, personally. That left side's a little worrisome to me, but I think they're going to be good.
Yeah, and the thing about with Elijah is, like, another thing that kind of we talked about, and I talked about when we got him, was the fact that at Alabama, that wasn't even this past season wasn't the same, staff that recruited him. Of course, they changed staff, and then he never really had a 100% full starting role locked down. He was always in kind of a position battle. I talked about before, listening to interviews with the coaches, they were talking about, how it seemed like, maybe that was frustrating him at times, which isn't a good thing in terms of his mentality. But we know if he's really suffering through it and getting good talks about him this spring, that means he's putting forth some effort. That's the only way that people talk good about you. So maybe a change of scenery was what he needed. And that's something we had talked about, all the talent in the world, 5-star recruit. Maybe he just needed a change of scenery.
It's weird how you'll see that happen a lot with kids. Is they'll be struggling at school A, and then you go to school B, and like Trey Palmer, perfect example.
Yep.
Couldn't even see the field at LSU. Comes to Nebraska, and 1 year, what does he do? Sets the all-time receiving yards record in a single season. Leaves after 1 year, goes to the NFL. Granted, he's probably going to get cut by the Buccaneers now because they drafted a bunch of receivers. But point still stands. Couldn't see the field at LSU. Comes to Nebraska and he balls out. And that we've seen that at Nebraska too. So,
yes, we have.
We'll wait and see.
All right. Well, speaking of Elijah Pritchett, let's just run that over into the conversation about actually on 3, I think it was, did a top 5 stock risers. So we're gonna pull these up and see if we agree with them or not. And so let me go share this tab instead. And the first name that we are going to see on this list is Elijah Pritchett. So the guy we just talked about, 6'6", 310 pounds. Number 4 offensive tackle prospect in 2022. Let's see what they said about him here. A long way to go in terms of continuing to learn our stuff. Really willing, really eager, puts in the work. He's a great kid. I've been pleased. Rule said the spring got a lot of time till the season comes, but I think it'll just get better and better and better. So it seems like that change of scenery is really helping out.
Yeah, everything I've heard, and I've heard it from a few people that I'm close to that really know their stuff, that he has been absolutely balling out. And then that I think it was Vincent Shavers, like the comments he said kind of give you a little bit more like validity to it when he said like, that dude's a dog, like he's just an absolute monster on the offensive line, he's strong as hell, all these different things. It kind of, at least for me, it was like, okay, what I'm being told is now kind of being said the same thing by a player who's going against him every day in practice. That made me feel a little bit more confident in what we're being told.
Agreed 100%. Next one on here, Mr. Cortez Mills. So Didn't take long for Mills show why he was the jewel of the 2024 class. Rolling January, true freshman flash throughout spring brawl. 6 foot, 170-pound former four-star recruit. Daniel Holgerson said Mills and fellow freshman wideout Mosey had all but locked up spots in next year's rotation. Both of those guys are going to contribute. They will be contributors in the fall. Okay. Holgerson said they will continue to get better. We'll continue to figure out what they'll do. One-on-one reps. Those guys probably the highest percentage sorry, success rate. Anytime something's misspelled, I have to try to say it. Very rarely do DBs get their hands on those guys. No surprise there seeing Mills and Mosey automatically being put in the rotation because you can't keep these guys out of the rotation.
Yeah. There's like some people when I like hype up like a big time recruit like Cortez Mills, they're like, yeah, well, he hasn't played yet. I'm like, there's just some dudes that are different and you can see it instantly. There's just some guys that are like that. And he's one of those guys. Same thing with Mosey. I think Mills is probably a little more polished right now.
Yep.
But yeah, Cortez, we've been saying it, man. The kid's a freaking dog.
Cortez Mills, just to understand what we're talking about, I want you somebody go, you pull up one day his film and just hit play, watch the first 3 plays, and then you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Because you're like, okay, now I get it. Like it jumps off the page. The athleticism, the speed, the route running, the ability that he has to kind of change up his routes. And not only that, he's a deep ball threat, but that also makes him a threat to kind of break it off underneath. Like he can beat you in so many different ways. You know, he's got speed. He knows how to use his size very well. He's a smaller guy, but he knows how to use his size. He knows his leverages. He knows his advantages. He knows his disadvantages, and he's able to. I don't know why this ad popped up with ladies in their underwear up here, so I apologize YouTube for that. But
didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it just popped up right here, just random like Olay ad. But yeah, so it's one of those guys. Cortez Mills is going to be an absolute star, dude. I have very little doubt in my mind that he's going to be a star. And Mosey is almost like Mills is so good that Mosey's almost taken a back seat, like in terms of which just completely discredits how insanely good Isaiah Mosey is at the same time. It's a good problem to have.
I'm not going to be shocked if our leading receiver, like say it's Dane Key, has like 50 catches for like 800 yards because Cortez is going to get 30 to 50 catches too. Like Ja'Cory Barney is going to have, like, you have so many mouths to feed right now. I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, you can't convince me they're going to run the ball 35 times a game because there's so many weapons on the outside. Like, I don't care how you run your offense, just score and just win. But with what we have in that wide receiver room, I have zero clue like how you're going to spread the ball around so much.
Or how the hell do you defend it?
Yeah, that too.
That's why like losing Hardly Gilmore hurt a lot less because we're just so stacked at the wide receiver position right now. Still hurt.
Yeah, there's going to be 4 or 5 guys that are in the 20 to 50 catch range. I'm not even kidding. Like, that's how good this receiver room is.
Yeah, no exaggerating at all. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and see what the next guy is. And it's a whole Mr. Jalen Gramstad.
Jalen Granddaddy.
Our winner himself. If you compare him to where he stood following the Pinstripe Bowl, Gramstad rose as much as anyone this spring, coming out of nowhere to camp tryout last summer. Progressively climbed the QB depth chart. 6 foot, 200-pound senior solidified himself as the clear 2 quarterback behind Raiola. We call him Granddad. He's an old man. Raiola said when I talked about him after the season coming back. He really is in comparison, though. I was like, I don't know. I was told him, like, dude, I need you to come back. That's kind of my guy, bouncing things off of. He's obviously been really successful playing quarterback. It's a conversation every day. I'm very grateful that I have him. I think that was one of the biggest things in getting Gramstad was when I did a video on him, I looked back at his, previous history and previous schools, and he wanted to be a coach. And like that was part of his plan and his old profiles when talking about, his previous schools. He's at, my dogs are barking, so I'm sorry if y'all hear that in the background. But with Gramstad, and God, they're making me lose my train of thought. My ADHD is overdrive right now with these dogs barking. But with Gramstad, it was always about bringing a winner into that locker room, bringing somebody who had, winning experience. And because they talked about him when he came in the building, there was this kind of this way he carried himself. Like you could tell he was a winner, and and so now we're kind of hearing that from Raiola himself, just how much of a benefit that was. And I think people underrate that. They're like, they thought Gramstead was brought in last year to play, and I'm like, he's not going to play this year. Like there's 0% chance. He was brought in late in the process. He has to learn the offense. He's undersized, never played at a power 5 level. He was not ready last year. Now they're talking about to the point where if he has to come in, he's probably ready. But you see the dividends paying off of he's the perfect Matt Rule graduate assistant future. Like that's his route, what I think it's going to be. But yeah, great to have him, and really happy to see that he's progressing and making some noise this spring.
Yeah, I really like Jalen, and I remember like when he originally transferred, people were like, "Why the heck are you taking an NAIA quarterback?" And I was like, "Man, football is football," and that dude has won. He's won their version of the Heisman, basically. I believe he won a national title, lost a national title. The dude knows his stuff. He's not coming to play, like you said. He's coming to be an extra voice, an extra expert to bounce ideas off Dylan Raiola. It's like handing, like, you're not handing off the keys to Jalen, but like it's more of like he's like handing the keys off to Dylan in the sense of like, I'm going to be the one that helps you get to where you want to go. I'm going to study film with you all the time. Like, he's a huge integral part of this system and this QB room that people don't realize. He's one of those guys like you have to keep.
Yep. 100% agreed. All right. So there's Jalen Gramstead. That's our third one. Two more here. And man, this was listen, coming into last season, I talked about Justin Evans all the time. He was on my top 5 spring players. I thought we're going to have a great season this year. Justin Evans is on here as center. Nebraska's significant void to fill in the middle of its O-line through the departure of center Ben Scott. By the end of the spring, Justin Evans left no doubt who's next in line. Started 13 games at left guard. Did start 1 at center 2023. His move full-time center's offseason has gone exactly how NU's staff has hoped. Apu's mentality has taken over leadership role. When I was for 2 months last season, I don't think he said one word. Never heard him talk out of the huddle. I never heard him. He played well. He was physical, but now he's kind of coming out of that. He's always been undersized overachiever. You got to get out. You get that mindset out of your head. You're a dude. He can be as good a center that exists in college football. I firmly believe that. I'm really happy with his progress. It's really interesting to hear the mentality side of that from Justin Evans, because like his first season where he had to come in late in 2023, I did really well. Like, all things considered, what was he, a redshirt sophomore? A redshirt freshman. So came in and did really, really well. And last season, again, had to, slide over and fill a role. Just progressively has gotten better and better as time has gone on, just all around. I think it was 2023 was kind of way better run blocker and pass blocker, if I'm not mistaken. But kind of balance that out a little bit this year, and now moving to center, it seems like it's going to be a good fit for him.
Yeah, I don't really worry too much about him being like 6'1". In fact, I think that's like a benefit for him as a center more so as a guard, because you can fire out of your stance a lot quicker. You can get leverage,
get underneath them and up into their pads, lift them off the ground. Yep.
Yeah, when you're going against a D tackle at 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", like, you have such an advantage immediately off the snap for leverage. I love the fact that he's a shorter center.
Because you can pop them upright. And once you pop them upright, put them on their heels, their center of gravity's gone. You're driving them backwards. Like, it's great. It's a great fit, like you said. Yeah, all you got to do is be strong, which he is.
Oh, this dude can squat a freaking truck.
Yep. So, I mean, that's all you need. Like, he's not overly undersized. So, yeah, just once you fly off that ball, get under, get those hands up underneath the pads, and then just start driving them back. I think it's a great fit.
In fact, I think during the spring game, he did like the tractor pull competition or whatever, and then immediately went and did another like tire flip or something.
That's
some
absurd.
Of them very, that like it was like 30 seconds later, he's going and flipping tires or something.
I've pulled a truck before, okay? And the amount of effort that you have to put out to pull a tractor, a truck, the amount of like what that puts on the cardiovascular system on top of the musculoskeletal, like they just max effort. And then for 30 seconds, you go and do something else. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. That's when I was like, okay, this dude's like another level of type human.
Yeah. He's a great player. And I just think like he's going to finally get his opportunity to like shine. And I always thought he would, but I feel like this fit just couldn't be more perfect for him. So it's kind of worked out. Not having a center is kind of worked out because I think it may have moved him into probably his optimal role, and I think they agree with that.
Oh yeah.
So always been a guy with some good feet though too. But and speak of the devil, look who's right here, Mr. Isaiah Mosey. We talked about Cortez and Mills getting a lot of love, and Isaiah Mosey may be taking a little bit of a back seat in regards to that, but still on here, Mills wasn't the only freshman to hit the ground a full sprint this spring. In fact, Mosey's rapid rise has been equally as impressive. Four-star Oregon commit Mosey followed his father Jamar, so linking at 6'1", 200. The former Lee Summit, Missouri North standout was also high school All-American. They're not very strong, so the contested catch stuff's probably what you wanted at this point. Not what you wanted at this point, but those guys do a good job body control playing the game. Now their heads are spinning, which slows them down some, but they really do a good job. They're talented young men. They're two very talented kids that will play this year. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is like there's so much to learn in terms of like how you're going to be guarded. And another thing that people don't understand, and I do, if people watch my film breakdowns, they've seen me. I always mention where the defensive back is lined up in terms of where the quarterback is. In high school, you don't see a lot of that where there's a lot more positioning stuff going on in college and into the NFL where, you're inside shading a guy because you want to force him to that outside, right? But then you have to learn as a receiver, okay, if he's trying to force me to that outside, like how do I sell this to break my hips back off the inside while still being able to create space without having to push off? Like those little things are the things that they're going to have to work. Being able to, like what Dane Key does very well. There's a few things I posted on Twitter back when we got around the time we were, in the running for Dane Key, where he has this subtleness to where his hands, where he meets, he'll meet the DB at the top of the route, but it's not a push away. It's just this. He does this thing with his subtle thing with his hands, where he just kind of is able to kind of like almost mirror the hands, but not make it to where the DB is able to jam him and make contact at the top of the route. So he's very crisp with breaking off the routes with his lower body, which allow him to get his hands, across and not let the DB jam him at the top or the break point of the route. And that's something they're going to have to learn, especially with, Cortez Mills being 170 pounds. Like, what is he going to do at the top of that break point when that DB does get his hands into him? When you get that like 210-pound, 6-foot DB who's just trying to jam at the top of the route. Like those are nuanced things that they're going to have to learn. Contested catch stuff. Yeah, you got a guy who's 170 pounds, but you got two freshmen, so they'll get better at that stuff. They're going to be kind of like a more involved version of kind of like what how Carter Nelson was just like so talented they need to get him on the field even though he wasn't refined. They're going to be the receiver versions of that. They're going to be in their positions. They're going to be doing everything that we're going to be seeing them, of course, do next year and the year beyond. But they're going to have a role in this offense for sure.
They're going to do a lot of things schematically to get them free releases off the line. I wouldn't be shocked. Cortez is probably long-term, and maybe even Isaiah long-term more of an outside receiver, but they can play the slot right now, this part in their careers. And typically a slot, you're getting off coverage. You're trying to get a linebacker on you. I think with Isaiah, they're going to line him up in the backfield quite a bit. He played running back in high school. You can have him catching passes out of the backfield. You can motion him out of the backfield into the slot. So they're going to do a lot of things creatively with those two in particular to allow them to get an easy release off the line of scrimmage. Because like you said, that's something they're not totally honed in on yet. Now, Cortez has an insane package with release. If you've watched his tape, but like his releases are really good. But again, you're going against a high school DB. When you're in college, it's different. So they'll do a lot of things differently. Just watch for that.
Yeah, you get those like those DBs in high school that are really kind of you going against a guy like Cortez. They're kind of playing on their heels a bit. You're going to get some dogs in college that are like second round picks, and they're going to line up with you, and they're not going to be on their heels. They're going to come after you because you're the young buck. They're going to come after you. All right, let me dive into some of the comments before we go to close of the show here. So let's see here. Anywhere in Jamar. Yeah, we talked about him before. It's not looking great. It's looking like Cal is in the driver's seat. Yeah. Longer it goes on, maybe, but don't get your hopes up. Jamar's probably heading to Cal. Let's see. Taylor Lewan donned Husker gear and got our lads piss up.
He said, "Get that piss hot, boys."
That's a piss up. He and Wild Willie are big contributors to Spring Thing festivity. That's what he was talking about. Okay, that makes more sense now. We need consistency, especially, yeah, without a doubt. I can't disagree with you there. Remember not putting your armrest in the death clutch every time special teams took the field. Remember the little 6-pound baby Jesus. Can our please special teams take the field?
Ironically, the first touchdown, the ensuing PAT was blocked in the spring game. I about lost my mind.
Gotta love it. Some things never change. If they could develop a fantasy college football league, they do. They actually have that. They have fantasy college. Tried it. There's a lot. It's just too much going on. It's like everybody has a great team.
Yeah, there's like 167 teams, so you got quite the options.
Yeah. Part of our losses go to NIL. You're correct, Matthew. You're not alone. Hence the funding opportunity for the Huskers. Highway NIL tax free. Nebraska not already done this. Texas tax free income. How does Justin Adams not understand blending fantasy football? Oh, I do. It's just like the specific set of like details that you put in there. I was like, my brain didn't quite pick up on those because it wasn't firing on all cylinders yet. But I do, yeah. Because I played the college fantasy. It's fun, but it's a lot. No worries, Matterboard J Rock is wicked smart.
That's how he's saying it.
You're being I see what you're doing. You like it's hard to park your car like you're from Boston, but also chewing peanut butter. He has to kick some stuff to the curb with I don't understand. He's just not getting distracted. Let's see. Pit snipe talking. I'll love Graham's dad take snaps and not poop his pants. He ain't gonna rock the world. Just take a snap, do his thing. That's all we need. Justin Evans popped a Raider a couple years ago. Lack of maneuver. He got at the second level. Killed pounds. Linebackers. He's a animal. Has learned some technique. I expect him to pop. Agreed. 100%. I'm full of beans today. Hell yeah, football. There we go. Look who we brought in here. Old Tanisha Lee. Love Cortez's film, exactly. Yeah. And we got some film coming up on the way for y'all. Trey Taylor, like we said before. Y'all stay tuned for that. We got our call-in show this Thursday. If you were not there this past Thursday, thank you to everybody who was and was able to call in. We had a good time. Went about 3 hours for the NFL draft. So it was a lot of fun. I'm glad we didn't wait on the Texans because the Texans ended up trading out of the first round after I waited all that time. They traded out of the first round. So ended up working out. But
what do you think the Texans did from your perspective?
You know, I kind of like the draft. I do. Went with Iowa State. I don't know what it was, but here's our draft. Like it's like we like a specific color of not player.
They got like
I don't want to say a specific uniform. Because we got that. We went with a specific color of player, so I'm not really don't take that out of context, guys. Specific color of jersey out of these college teams. So here is our pick. So we went in the first round. We got Jaden Higgins, Iowa State receiver. We took their top two receivers. So Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. And then right after that, we took an offensive tackle out of Minnesota. Okay. So jersey colors matching. Round 3, Jalen Noel. That was the second Iowa State receiver we took. Round 3, number 97, Jalen Smith from USC. Okay. Round 4, Woody Marks, running back, USC.
That's a good pick, too.
Yeah, it is. Jalen Reed from Penn State. So he broke it up a little bit in round 6. Round 7, Graham Mertz. We got Keontae Hamilton from Rutgers and Luke Lachey, Iowa. So our first 5 picks were all in that red and gold. But I really liked our draft. We went over our offensive tackle. We got a couple receivers. But I like the way they did it, kind of going with the teammates in the second and third round from Iowa State. I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So,
yeah, I'm working on a little gift for you from Jalen Noel, by the way.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, one of my employees' brother. That's his brother. So I was like, hey,
oh, really?
Do me a solid. Can you have him sign something for my co-host on my show? And he was like, I got you, bro.
My man. I appreciate
it. So I'm waiting for that before he reports because he said he reports next week.
I'm hyped now, bro. Let's go. I appreciate that. I'd be we'll have to
Graham Mertz.
we'll have to see what that is on the show. Yeah, Graham Mertz. The long we didn't end up with Shadur. Why did we get Graham Mertz though, bro? I was not happy with that.
He's from my neck of the woods, so I'm very familiar with him. He's the one that like stole the Army All-American game that one year. He's threw like 5 touchdowns, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, this kid's insane!" And then he wasn't.
Yeah, like we could have went. Yeah, I remember when everybody thought Graham Mertz was like second coming of Jesus. But like Will Howard was there, so like why did we?
That'd have been a way better pick.
Graham Mertz over like Will Howard doesn't make any sense. So what about the Chiefs draft?
I really like our first round pick, Simmons. Barring injury last year, he probably would have been a top 5 pick, I think, at offensive tackle. So I really like that. The big concern there is how healthy is he? So that's my only like pause is like, well, okay, if he is healthy, you probably have a legit left tackle for the next, handful of years. I'm pulling up their picks right now, actually. Let's see. Oh yeah, Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee.
Yeah, I like that.
Time pick. There's people like, oh, we only played 17 snaps a game. Well, Tennessee's D line are like 10 deep.
Yeah, look. Context is important here. He didn't play at Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, no kidding. Ashton Gelati, I really like. My only concern with Ashton Gelati is just like his ability to consistently get to the pass or to the quarterback.
Yeah.
But really big, physical. He's a little undersized, so he's like 6'2". Cornerback pick, Noel Williams from Cal. Love the pick. Let's see, Jalen Royals from Utah State, probably one of the most underrated receivers in the draft.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's like a really high value pick for where they got him. I think it was like the 6th round. I believe.
Round. Yeah, I think it was.
That's a really high value pick.
Super late.
So the Jeffrey Bossa one from Oregon. I think he's a really good pass coverage linebacker. So from a Chiefs perspective, it'll allow us to pull like Nick Bolton off the field on obvious passing situations. So I like it for that reason. Brashard Smith, the running back, wide receiver from SMU, love.
Yep.
I see him like as like a Jerick McKinnon, but better and faster and younger. And then that was it. That was their draft, and I'd give them like a solid B+, maybe an A-.
Yeah. So I'm one of those guys who refuses to give my team an A anything draft related because I stay at B or below because to me the A comes after, right? Like I can't sit here and say A just because like I feel like a lot of times I'm like, oh, I love what we did, There's I hate what we did, but like it's either I love them or I hate them. And it's like, so like, for instance, like anytime I thought we've had an A draft class, like I feel like it always ends up in that B, C range anyways. Mm-hmm. So I try to keep my grading there. So I give the Texans like a B-. That's what I'm.
Yeah. It's like recruiting in high school or for college too. It's like, you really don't know what you have until 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years down the road. So like on the surface level, like I'm super pumped, but if half that class turned out to be guys that never played, it's like, okay, it went from like a A-, B+ to a D.
Let's just say I've stopped grading my own teams as A's because like I feel like sometimes I get carried away, and we'll do that because I'll get hyper fixated on like looking into the players that we got, and I'm like, oh, like I'm looking at pros and cons, and it just kind of sometimes you end up convincing yourself of things. But like overall, just high level overview, I feel like my best look of it is when I'm just going by what I know about these players. Yeah, I'd give us about a B-. But y'all's draft.
I used to find myself doing that with like recruits. Like you'd get this guy that's like, like a low-end 3-star, and you're like, but you know what, man? Like he's got length, he's got speed, and you're like, but then he gets, and you're like, man, that guy, I can't believe I thought he was going to be the next like Ndamukong Suh.
So many times I'm looking back on names I have that thought. I'm like so happy about.
We should one day revise, like do like a revisionist history of like old recruiting classes. That would be fun, like for the summer.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, that would be fun. Each year, like last 10 years.
You'd be shocked at how some of these high-end recruits just completely busted, and then you have the Amir Abdullahs of the world that are 5.2 3-stars.
Yeah. All right. I'm echoing, so let me just hurry up and close this out. Justin, I just saw this. I just messaged you back. Wave. Sending him the money from our basketball tournament challenge. I keep forgetting to log into Discord on my phone, so I just did it. Because otherwise I would have forgot. So I just did it. So I'll get that over to you, Justin. Thoughts on the prank draft calls? I think it's a little messed up.
Yeah, it's like that's like that's those players' biggest moment of
I didn't like
their
it.
life to that point. Like, how can you do that? Kind of screwed up.
I didn't like it. I
There was
get
that one guy that said he had 5 prank calls on day 2 or day 3. He had 5 prank calls before he was drafted.
crazy. That's so messed up. I just think that's messed up. I don't care how much you dislike somebody. Don't ruin that for them.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm not even.
He started off with a Beatles song and then ended it with I have no idea what.
I'm not reading that. But yeah, I'll get that over to you, Justin. So, all right, everybody. Well, I'm echoing all crazy. So thanks for tuning in. Brian, go ahead and close us out.
All righty, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Husker Gutter Call-In Show live Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you call in. We will see y'all later.
Peace.